Oh. I had Jason at my door, sorry.
Oh,
Yep. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I just want to welcome you all to MBIA's virtual member meeting for November 6th. It's great to see everybody. And today we are going to kick off our meeting, introducing one of MBIA's newest board members, Drew Robinson. We're excited to have Drew on board of our board of directors, and we're excited to hear about him this afternoon to kick us off about him. If you give us a few words about yourself and your programs as our host of today's meeting.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Cheryl. And I am so appreciative to be able to co-host this meeting, and I look forward to what emerges, pun intended, because the name of my organization is Emerge. What emerges from this conversation. I have joining me today as well, Ambi Bell, who is the executive director for Emerge Innovation Hub, and she's going to talk more in detail about the weeds. I am a visionary by nature, and so I can talk anything that's aspirational and a million feet in the air. But she gets into the details of how all of the programs are laid out, how they're managed, how they are impacting the community at large. And so I serve as the president and CEO of Emerge Innovation Hub. Emerge started back in 2020. We started honestly during a time when most people were trying to figure out what they were going to do with their lives, and we had the Great Resignation. People were resigning from their jobs because of COVID. Well, for us, this was an opportunity to be able to say, what can we do to help serve the community, in particular, the BIPOC community that we live and serve in. And so we started with a pilot group, taking them through a series of just foundational courses related to entrepreneurship and some of the things they would need to be successful entrepreneurs. And they did a phenomenal job. And from this, one individual landed a major contract with Whirlpool Corporation, which is the largest corporation in this area that dominate the group. And we ended up maybe 6 months later getting a call from Whirlpool saying, hey, we have a pot of money that we want to be able to invest in entrepreneurs. Can we partner with you to be able to share some of our dollars to be able to invest and equip and come alongside of entrepreneurs, in particular from the BIPOC community in the Benton Harbor and Berrien County area? Well, of course, as a true visionary, I wasn't going to say no. So from there in 2021, I met up with a couple of other notable individuals, some of whom you know, like Dwayne Powell from PNC Bank and others. And honestly, it was during that time that Phil Swanson, who was the director of entrepreneurship and innovation for Whirlpool Corporation, introduced me to Sandra. And so how I got introduced to Sandra at MBIA is through Phil, who was a board member for Emerge. And so long story short, because I can keep talking, I could just run my mouth for the next 2 hours. But I know we have a phenomenal speaker, so I want to make sure we get to him. But long story short, we decided that it was in the best interest for the community to pull together a collaborative group of about 7 to 10 organizations and businesses, financial institutions throughout Berrien County, including Horizon Bank, PNC Bank, Whirlpool Corporation, Honor Credit Union, Connexus Group, and the like, into what we call the initial founding members of Emerge Innovation Hub, which is a separate 501c3. And we have a myriad of programs that are there to address the needs of the entrepreneurs that we serve. And with that, I will mute myself intentionally. Otherwise, Ambi will get me later on if I don't, because I will keep talking. She knows that. Ambi.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Is it okay if I go ahead and share my screen? Okay, awesome.
I might have to make you a co-host. Hang on a second.
Sure.
Okay, you should be able to now.
Okay. Thank you. If everyone can let me know if you can see that. Awesome.
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Well, here at Emerge Innovation Hub, we primarily service the Benton Harbor, Berrien Springs area, Niles area as well. And we are an ecosystem that really supports BIPOC entrepreneurs in this area who have not had an opportunity to access funding and really get the resources that they need so that they can grow and scale their businesses. I'm gonna go ahead and just get right into it. So we do four main things. We cultivate, incubate, accelerate, and generate. And by cultivate, really what we are doing is we have monthly hangouts where we get to know the entrepreneurs here in our area. They're able to come out. We have a speaker who comes out once a month and really just educates them on something, whether that's technological, whether that is financial. We're really just here to make sure that they have like someone walking alongside them to really understand and help develop their business. We also cultivate in our weekend intensives where we have someone come in, and it may be something as simple as I need a business plan. I don't understand what a business plan is. I don't understand how to create business processes. This is above my head. How exactly am I going to figure this out? And it may be, actually not maybe, it has been as simple as creating a whiteboard with 1,000 sticky notes and saying, when you wake up, what's the very first thing that you do for your business? I check my emails. I check to see if I made any sales last night. I check to see if anyone visited my website. And we walk alongside them. We go, well, that's the first thing. That's the process. That's a process to your business. Really just understanding what they have, because the first major barrier is starting, and they've already done that and they're here. So we just want to make sure that we're walking alongside them. Incubating is basically when we're introducing them to the ecosystem that surrounds them here in Southwest Michigan. And that may be your whirlpool. I'm sorry, I'm in the office. Some people come in and speak. That may be whirlpool, that may be people within the community who also have businesses who may walk alongside them as a mentor. Just a network of opportunities for them that's accessible. They don't necessarily have that before they get here, and they really truly just need someone to make sure that they're walking down the right path. We also do pitch competitions and the training programs. And pitch competitions are amazing in the incubate stage because they're really learning how to speak for themselves, how to articulate what it is their vision looks like to an audience. We just had a pitch competition 2 weeks ago, and it was amazing. We had over 30 applicants, which for an area that may have close to 12 to 14,000 people, just to have 30 people say, I have a business idea, I trust you, please help me, is major here. But yeah, we had over 30 applicants, and we did 2 contests. So we did a high pitch and a low pitch. And we recognized that some needed more help than others, but we did not want to exclude them. And some were a bit further along, and we wanted to reward them for the hard work and diligence that they have put into their businesses. So for the low pitch, we, goodness gracious, we gave away almost $50,000 for this area, which is also amazing. And thanks to our partners like Whirlpool, we were able to make that happen and walk alongside some incredible partners as we journey with these entrepreneurs. But for the low pitch, that was almost the $8,000 prize. And they really had to market their business, show where their financials were, how they plan to scale, what they want to do with the money. And of course, they made under $25,000 a year. For the high pitch, they made over $25,000 at least 2 years in a row. And their grand prize, I believe, was $20,000, which was amazing. They were incredible. they were so proud of themselves at the end of the night. And that's really what this work is about. So being able to walk alongside them in that incubation phase is really important, making sure that they have all that they need to fuel up. The Accelerate is really training. We have a fellows program, which lasts for 6 months. The first 3 months are an accredited program that we work alongside the state with. Once they finish that, they have the next 3 months where they are receiving increments of 10K per month, and we're able to track them. They have mentors, they have tutors that work alongside them, and we're making sure that they are scaling in the correct way. They have CPAs, they have financial mentors, they're covered, and we surround them with that help. And the Generate portion is really just coaching for a high level, making sure that they know how to scale correctly. And basically, I just kind of went over how we accomplished this. I know we have a speaker, and I'm anxious to hear what he has to say too. So I may be going to, did you say something? I couldn't hear you.
I just said, you're fine, don't worry.
Okay, thank you. Well, this was a little bit about what we spoke about earlier. And as you can see, this is normally what it looks like. This may have been one corner, the rooms are full. Over the summer, just this past year, we have scaled. So we no longer have room to fit people inside a building. In the summer months, we are outside, we're in a park, we're fellowshipping together, we're supporting the businesses that come in. So we may do support a caterer who is a part of our program, and they may do a picnic style lunch. And we're just not only giving them information, but we're also giving to their businesses. So these were the proposed outcomes for 2023, and we really have done everything that we said we were going to do, which was not an easy task, but it was well worth it. We definitely have helped them to create their visions. They are scaling, they are generating financial incomes that are well worth it. They understand KPIs, they are working toward it, they are building teams, they are scaling. We have people coming in there talking about microlending. We have Andrews University also coming in and talking about technology, how they can even scale online and bringing in whatever that looks like for the individual business. These are a few of our impact numbers over this past year. Just monthly attendance, we're at about 138. We've surpassed that now. We may be around 180. It just keeps growing, and we are proud about that, and proud that the community trusts us with their businesses and their ideas and their intellectual property. We have so far invested 68K, and that number is also going to go up. We're a little over 100,000 that we have invested into local area businesses, and we are proud with that. The Fellows program that I mentioned earlier, they are seeing a 28% growth in revenue and a 16% growth in customers. And that means not just recurring customers, customers that are getting off of highways because they now know how to promote their businesses. They are now shipping to, I think we've almost touched every state. We've touched over 40 states with our entrepreneurs. Our weekend intensives are growing. Our community board members are amazing. They show up consistently, whether they have businesses or not. If it's just friends who are in the area who can mentor, who have businesses, they are present, and we are very grateful for them. And the pitch night engagement, that was from 2022, the end, going through our year as a nonprofit. And these are some of the partners that we work with. I normally show a video when I'm not, for sake of time. And that is all. Thank you so much for taking a tour of Emerge. We appreciate it.
And if I can highlight, to sum it up, just a couple of things that we do that is unique. Many of you may have heard of Cornerstone Alliance, and obviously they have a women's business center that's providing similar type of services. One of the things we realize is that with this, right, we are galvanizing an ecosystem to support entrepreneurs. And so a lot of our events are really rooted towards how do we help give entrepreneurs access to some of the resources, some of the key business leaders and financial institution leaders in the area to be able to support them. Secondly, we consider ourselves to be a barrier removal entrepreneurial program, which means simply, right, we're really focused on those individuals who either have a dream for entrepreneurship or those individuals that have started their own business. Maybe they had a mom and pop shop, maybe they had a restaurant, but they just don't know how to get to the next level, right? How to grow, how to scale. We're helping to remove some of the barriers that they face in being able to get to that next point, all the while connecting them to the resources they need to be successful entrepreneurs and the training as well. And so this is where we consider ourselves specialists, taking especially, and this is the reason why we say our primary focus is for the BIPOC community. It's not exclusive just to the BIPOC community, but we realize that there is a segment of individuals who just get marginalized, get forgotten, either because they didn't go to the right school district, didn't graduate from college. We're taking those individuals saying, hey, if you have a dream and a vision to start your own business, we want to still invest in you and give you the ability to become a Bill Gates, someone who didn't graduate from college, but yet was able to build this mega organization business because of hard work, persistence, and someone who believed in him. So, any questions?
That's amazing. What a great program you've got going on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone with questions? I don't have questions. I think it's a cool program. I just love hearing about all the different things that are going on around the state. Didn't know your program was there, didn't know what you were doing. It's like, that's incredible. Your metrics are fabulous. What a great asset you guys are to your community. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just impressed by your turnout. So I thought that that's great. How you get such a good turnout, an ecosystem of community members who come to your events and represent their businesses or their interests. So yeah, thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I do have a quick question, actually two questions. So one, how do you really stimulate the local businesses getting behind new startups? That would be one. And I know you gave an example there, but I'm just wondering on the whole. And then number two, how do you get the community in general to get excited about these startups and actually want to participate and mentor them to move forward? I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
If
Sure,
I could,
we work a lot with our chamber. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. Actually, you were about to say the same thing I was about to say because you started with chamber and I was about to mention chamber.
I'm sorry.
Great minds think alike.
I'm sorry, President.
Hey, at least you know, Frank, that it's not a lie.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so we have an amazing relationship here with the Southwest Michigan Chamber, and their president and their office staff. We put together a couple of events a year, just introducing the small startup businesses to some of the larger, more established businesses, and we go over the mission. Even at the end of the fellows program, we have a demo day where we invite about 40 to 50 established businesses from the area. And they come out and everyone who's went through the program has an opportunity to demonstrate what they learned, what they were able to accrue, how that works for their business and how they've been able to grow, how they've been able to scale. As far as the community is concerned, we're boots on the ground. We're in the community. We are everywhere they are. We're telling them about the program. We are walking into businesses that are small. We are shopping with them. We are hosting events and having other entrepreneurs who are interested. Like, hey, if you know any friends or anyone else who is in this field who's looking for help, who needs the support, we're here. We're available. Please bring them in. I also sit as a planning commissioner. So a lot of times people who have businesses are coming in to the city and saying, this is what we're trying to do. Where can we go? what does this look like? And I'm able to say, hey, come on over here, Emerge gotcha. So yeah, that's so there's a grassroots effort as well as a relationship effort with some of the more established businesses in the area.
And do you find yourself doing a lot of relations where companies are looking to hire people, but having, we're all having issues with talent and issues like that? Do you see where on one end you're servicing the companies, but on the other end, you're also making connections with, people that have backgrounds that fit those companies?
Yeah, so we do have a workforce development arm that is focused on providing corporations and businesses a lot, especially in the manufacturing area, with the talent to be able to work in those individual businesses. But we also want to make sure that we're bringing awareness to those businesses to say, hey, there are entrepreneurs here in this community that you need to support. And the best way, I was in a conversation with Mark Bitzers, president and CEO for Whirlpool, and I said to him, the best way you can support entrepreneurs is not always just giving them money, right? Because you could just, this is what the state does as a government. Everybody gets, money, right? The best thing you can do for an entrepreneur is give them an opportunity for a contract. Because if they have an opportunity for a contract, they can hire folks from the community, and that will lead to economic revitalization, especially in a community like Benton Harbor.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Cheryl, where do you want to go to next? Oh, you're muted.
Hold on, there we go. Again, thank you, Drew and Amby. We really appreciate it. Great information. It was great to hear for me up here in the UP about your side of the state. It's awesome. I think we're going to turn over to Sandra. You're going to go ahead and introduce our speaker.
I am. Thank you. We are fortunate today to have a guest joining us all the way from Indianapolis. Is that where you are today, Dick?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. Don't you love, that's the only decent thing that came out of the terrible pandemic is we are all now so much more comfortable being on these virtual environments, and we can bring people in from so much further afield. So that's great. I want to introduce everyone today to Dick Aderman. In his most recent position as studio director at Boomerang Ventures, Dick is applying his experience and skills to shepherd early stage businesses from investment worthiness to exit, implementing processes, tools, resources, and talent under his direction to increase the probability of successful return for founders and for investors. Dick's a global leader who has built a career of broad experience across many types of businesses. He's worked at Roche Diagnostics, where he and his team created exceptional growth and profitability, doubling the U.S. clinical and molecular diagnostics unit. He was CEO of Hycor, and there he initiated the development of a novel immunochemistry instrument reagent system. And at Quadraspec, he oversaw the development and commercial use of a novel multiplex system. He's held senior level global positions in healthcare IT, medical device, clinical diagnostics, and healthcare service firms. He's raised over $50 million for private equity and venture-backed businesses. He currently serves as a board chair for a startup that developed in vitro diagnostic tests based on microarray chip technology. Ooh, heady stuff there. As well as novel biomarkers focused on a suite of tests for acute brain injury. So he's out there saving the world too. I'm proud to say that Dick is a graduate of Western Michigan University right here in Kalamazoo. He earned his Bachelor of Business Administration with concentration.
Go Broncos.
Yeah, go Broncos. He has concentrations in marketing and economics, as well as a Bachelor of Science with a concentration in speech communications and psychology. So not only is Dick incredibly experienced, incredibly talented, he's also incredibly kind. And he is here today to talk with us about the whole concept of the studio venture. And what does that mean? So at that, Dick, please take it away and help us understand this exciting area.
Sandra, thank you very much. And thank you for the introduction, for sure. Very, very kind of you. So let me share my screen. All right. See, can you all see it?
Yes, just put it in. Yep, there we go. Now it's in display mode. We're good.
Yep, great. So we're gonna today really talk about venture studios and what they are and how they can compare and contrast to incubators and accelerators. then talk more specifically about what it is that Boomerang does. I was going to talk about myself, but you did a great job with that, so we'll keep moving along. You know, when we think about a venture studio, we really have two stakeholders, and there's on one hand is the investor, and the investor, of course, they're looking for great returns for their funds. They're looking to have low risk if they possibly can, and they want to see a great outcome. For the entrepreneur themselves, that's another one of our constituents. Of course, they want to get their product into the marketplace and they want to be successful. They want to have an exit themselves. And so each one of these are experiencing, however, some of the same kind of problems. And I looked this up as I was building this presentation a few days ago, and I didn't realize there are over 300 million startups every year globally. And that's really quite an amazing number. And when I did my first startup in 2005, 2006, the statistic then was that 9 out of 10 would fail. And looking at the statistics today, 9 out of 10 still fail. And that's really a terrible, problem and a terrible return. And, you know, some of the reasons are because, number one, they run out of cash. Another issue is there's not a market need for their product, which is, I'd say is pretty frustrating. You know, there are a number of startups where the owner is going into debt to do this. I've been counseling a guy on a product of his, and he just informed me that he sold his home to fund his business. And that's really somebody putting serious money and behind what they're doing. Another thing is many of these startups are getting funded. They're Series A, Series B, Series C, but they're failing even in those, even with the backing of you know, really informed investors. And you know, so all that just points to there continues to be a problem. So about 2012, it really started to pick up this idea of venture studios. And you can see in this curve that really over the last, you know, handful of years, it's grown tremendously. Today, there are probably about almost 875 to 900 of these globally. And of course, the concept really is what we do in the studio is that we provide experience and talent, proven process, access to partners. And as we go through this process, we're really de-risking these businesses by the kinds of things that we're looking at, whether it would be what's the market fit with the product? Is there a real problem? For us in healthcare, we're looking at regulatory, reimbursement, those kinds of things. We'll look at the business model in these, and that in a way will really help us understand, does the business owner, does the founder of this business really understand what's going on in the marketplace? And then the last thing that studio concepts really do is they provide funding. Most of the studios have a fund associated with it. We're no exception. We have a $30 million fund associated with Boomerang Venture Partners. Typically, a venture studio is going to start up somewhere between 3 and 5 companies annually. We're no different than that. Our goal is to start up 4 every year. And according to Max Pogg, who provided a lot of these statistics in his kind of his blog on LinkedIn, he said that normally they'll take 20 to 40% equity. You know, in our case, it's probably closer to 30 to 55% equity of a business. The other thing that we're going to do that the studio concept does is in an early business, we're going to be the majority of the board positions. Some of the successes then that venture studios provide is we get to see that the funding happens twice as fast. When we look at a business, and I'll show you in a bit our entire process, our first 2 stages take about 5 months. And so we're going to help people get to funding much faster. At the end of our stage 2 process, the pitch deck is built, and we're already pitching the business to investors. They also reach Series A through C in about half the time that they normally would take. And the exit happens much faster under venture studios. And of course, there's a higher rate of return. And the last thing that I think is really important, especially for founders, I've worked with founders in my career who thought, I've got this great idea. I want 100% or 90% of the equity that I generate out of this. And ultimately, under those scenarios, many times it fails because there's not enough cash, there's not enough money available for the business. And so in a venture startup, the founder can really have the expectation of a higher exit value. And that means that their number is there's going to be fewer rounds for them. And it's also going to mean that they're probably going to have a greater chance of success themselves in terms of generating the equity for themselves that they'd like to. So Sandra asked me the question, and it got me to really thinking, what is the difference between an accelerator, an incubator, and a venture studio? And it's kind of a busy slide. I think the most important piece here is if we think about the business model, the others can be a nonprofit or investment. We're fully engaged. We fully engage with the business. And that I mean that we assign people to work in that business as we assess it in stages 1 and 2. We're going to take an investment or an equity position in that. And once it gets through our stage 2 process, we're going to start putting an investment into it. Probably the other thing is education. And I heard Andy talk a little bit about education and mentorship today. We don't do any of that. When we assign an XIR to it, we're looking for someone with a very specific skill set and background and experience. Typically, we want to see them be a CEO of a company before this. We'd like them to be in corporate, private equity, or in venture-backed businesses already, hopefully successful, and hopefully have raised cash. The other thing is we really don't have a location ourselves. I mean, we have one office at an office share place called 16 Tech here in Indianapolis, but we do not require companies to come in and work under the same roof that we do. So typically, much like we're doing this meeting, the companies are virtual, and then the last piece of it is, yes, we do fund. So that's a major part of what we do, and it is I think one of the major attractions for businesses. So in terms of what we do, we are strictly focused on connected healthcare, and we bring new ideas to the marketplace. As you know, we've talked about, we're in Indianapolis. Drew, you were talking about starting off in 2020. We did the same thing. We started off during the pandemic, and of course, we got off to somewhat of a slow start due to that. Our focus today is really Midwest. Ultimately, though, you'll see that we really want to go global over time. Today, we have 4 companies in our portfolio, ranging from services to devices. As I said, ultimately, we'd like to be a global business. We'd like to, in the next 10 years, we'd like to have 40 companies that have been in our portfolio or are in our portfolio. And we'd like to create over $1 billion in value. So a little bit about us. Again, at the top, we're really about company building and venture funding. And we're really looking for disruptive technologies in digital health and in medical devices. And we will take a software company on its own, or we will take software and medical devices together. We will not do medical devices on their own because we believe that the value in healthcare moving forward is in the information that is generated through the products and solutions that we will invest in. Our deal flow, of course, comes from individual founders, people who've started their own businesses. We also take them from corporations. You know, a lot of time, corporations are not the best place for innovation. They're pretty risk averse where innovation comes from. And so we've had a couple of corporations ask us to take a look at businesses that they think would be worthwhile and see if we wouldn't put them under our umbrella. Where we get most of our ideas from, though, are universities. We get a lot out of academia. I think today we're working on 3 of those already. And then we get some out of healthcare systems. So we build relationships with universities and healthcare systems throughout the Midwest right now. And we're getting actually quite a good source of deal flow through those. As I said before, and I'll talk about in a little bit, kind of our experience is one of the key things that we rely on. Most of our founders have had success as founders of businesses themselves, or have built businesses, or investors. The other thing is we have a robust network. We look for partners out in the marketplace for hardware development, software development, reimbursement, regulatory, and on and on. And these are resources that we bring to entrepreneurs who might be spending their time looking around, digging for who's good at this, how much will it cost me, so on and so forth. And so we've already done all that legwork. And in many cases, we have 2 and 3 resources for each one of those different categories. And then, of course, this idea that we have access to capital through Boomerang, through our fund. But at the same time, we've been out building our capital partner network around the Midwest as well. And so through my connection at Western and on the board, there's a guy named Mike Gerfen, who's part of KZoo Partners there, actually got us reconnected with the folks up at Grand Rapids at the Michigan Capital Network. So we do a lot of work with them and others around the Midwest. In terms of what we do, funding wise, we're pre-seed and seed only. We do not do Series A or beyond at this point. We will be the lead investor in each one of those rounds, and we will provide $250,000 for each round. I'm not going to go into detail of our people here, but just to know that the founding team is a group that's worked together quite a bit in the past. We were all part of a group called Vision Tech Capital Partners. It's really an angel investing group here in Indiana, and wonderful experience from all of them. Oscar, our founder and managing partner, serial entrepreneur, started his own business down here called Storage Tech. Actually sold that business for $800 billion a few years ago, and has taken his return on that and invested in our community here. We look to expand it around the Midwest. Eric Beyer is an emergency room physician by training. Actually got his MBA at the University of Michigan. He knew most of the way through, halfway through his medical degree, he realized that all of his contemporaries were reading magazines and books about healthcare and their specialty. Eric was reading Fast Times and other things about entrepreneurship. And so he's been a serial entrepreneur most of his adult life as well. Tony Petrucciani is another guy here in Indianapolis, started his own software company really in college. And then I'd say the other partner that I want to mention here is Audrey Beckman. Audrey is our chief innovation officer, and Audrey was instrumental in the knee and joint business at Biomet Zimmer. She's bought many products to the marketplace and really understands how that innovation supply chain, if you will, works. Not to go into all of our group again, but as I said before, what we really look for in our XIRs, and actually I started as an XIR a year ago, and what we're looking for is many of the same things that I have in my background: corporate experience in venture, private equity backed, board work on venture companies. We'd like to see that they've raised capital in their careers and have a track record of success. So a little bit about how we work is an idea comes into the studio team, and I'll go through that in a little bit more detail here in another slide. We kind of put it through our process, our infrastructure, and it ultimately leads to funding. We send it out as a project. If we decide that we want to work on it, then we're going to form a new company. We're going to bring in an XIR, ultimately a CEO and a team, and funding it. We're going to scale it and exit it. If it doesn't work for us, in some cases, we send it back to the entrepreneur themselves or the academic center or the healthcare system and say, we think this is a really good idea, but we think it needs continued development. Here's the areas that we suggest you might develop it. In a couple of instances, we've had interns go work with them, and we really look for them to come back to us with maybe an idea that has a lot more, is a lot more ready for our process. So Audrey is the person. Audrey Beckman is really the genius behind our launch system. She calls it a 5-stage system. Eric and I call it a 6-stage because it's the idea that we're really assessing 50 to 75 companies in this, we call it stage 0. In stage 1 and stage 2, it's really about investment worthiness. We're looking to de-risk it and decide, is this something that not only Boomerang, but others on the outside will invest in as well. As we go through stages 3 through 5, which are really go-to-market, scale, growth, and exit, we're really looking at what's the speed to value creation. Overall, we'd like to manage a business between 3 and 7 years. 3 to 5 is probably more optimal for us. Necessarily, that means that in the early stages, certainly, if there is technology development that's required around the product, we're probably going to be out on that. That may be a little bit too early for us. It may be more of a research phase. So we're ready for products that are in a development stage that we can really take to commercial developers, software, and hardware developers, and then get it ready for getting out into the market and selling. We have a number of processes and systems that we put around it. As I mentioned before, a number of partners that we bring to this. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them. And I think one of the other things that we're very keen on is the talent that we either observe within the organization that comes to us, or the talent that we acquire to lead these teams going forward. As I said, when a project comes in, we immediately sign an XIR to it. Once we get close to the end of stage 2, we're going to be building a pitch deck, and we're going to be talking to CEOs, potential CEOs for that business. Ultimately, we'll add board members and other advisors as needed. So I've already talked a lot about what we do, but I think the other things that we bring to this, the other thing that we bring to this is, the other thing that we bring to this is a lot of strategy around the business. So we do spend a lot of time talking about, what is the best approach for this? And we really want to think about a multi-generational product. We think those products are the kind that we can get started with on a smaller scale, scale up, and ultimately, as we go to exit, our exit targets will be very interested to see that there is a life beyond the 3 or 4 or 5 years that they've been selling so far. I think one of the other things that we do very well is we have a number of industry connections. Many of us have been around the industry for many, many years, myself included, and we've had exposure to a number of different people in healthcare, whether it would actually be actual companies that supply the industry, or people with the industry in healthcare themselves. And then really the other thing is really the network that we have. I've talked about venture capital, but we've established an ecosphere system down here in Indianapolis, but we are beginning to grow that outside of the Indianapolis and Indiana area. Recently, we hired an XIR in the Chicago area, and she's been great about getting us exposed to the ecosphere that's up there. Hardware developers, software developers, venture capital funds, so on and so forth. And so we look to continue to expand that network. Some of the key areas that we work on, we would call, one in the upper left-hand quadrant, distributed care. There is a need for rural health, the ability to treat people and care for people in rural areas. It's a real need in the United States today. And it's also to get care aligned to their need. See a lot of need in things like children with disabilities, as an example. In other areas, nursing, things like that, where people need care locally. We also see a caregiver drain, a shortage of healthcare professionals. Again, nursing, neurologists, you can kind of go on and on. We're seeing a lot of people leave this marketplace, ophthalmologists, optometrists. We're seeing a lot of caregivers leaving the marketplace and leaving the stress of that care now really focused back on the family in many cases, and even a thinned out care provider group within the healthcare systems themselves. Certainly looking at improved outcomes, value-based care is a very important piece of healthcare going forward. So how do we improve the outcomes of patients at the same time reducing that cost of care? And so we see a lot of that happening through software. And then last is kind of preventative or early care diagnosis. We've been looking at glaucoma as an example, as a 100% treatable blindness caused to it is really preventable. And the issue really comes down to, are we diagnosing it early enough, and are we diagnosing it accurately enough? Along with those care processes that I talked about, the care applications, we're really spending a lot of time, and we see a lot of focus from the marketplace is in the area of musculoskeletal. We see a lot going on with physical therapy, chiropractic, and other kinds of therapies. Mental health and neurology are really key areas. We've seen some really cool technologies in virtual, in the VR space and mental health. We're seeing neurology as a specialty where the neurologists are now way short-staffed, and we're looking at different ways to move some of that testing either home or to a caregiver or to a primary care physician. Certainly a lot in elder care, chronic care, and as I said, we see these kind of applications all the time. Probably some of the biggest trends we see, of course, in connected healthcare are going to be in artificial intelligence or machine learning. Artificial intelligence is growing very rapidly, as I'm sure you all know, but we see a lot of areas where artificial intelligence and machine learning can help us develop second and third generations of some of the software and devices that we're actually looking at today. And I think that that's probably, we're obviously seeing a lot of development in telemedicine as well. Again, remote nursing and other kinds of remote healthcare. Sandra asked me to talk a little bit about kind of what have been the ups and downs of the businesses in our business. And I would tell you, I think the cool thing is we've gotten 4 new businesses started. We will have looked at 50 businesses by the end of the year. We're right now in the low 40s. We continue to have businesses come forward. And I think one of the neatest things is to see all the cool stuff that's coming down the pike, and to see how people in academia and in healthcare delivery systems are looking at really neat ways to solve the problems that we have today. I think the other thing that we're getting a lot of great traction on the projects that we're undertaking, so we're very excited about that. And I think we've been very fortunate to attract the kind of talent that we've been getting from out in the marketplace. So it seems like we're becoming somewhat of a destination for people, so that's cool. I think some of the downs are, as we look at some of the technology that we've seen, there's additional development that's required. We just recently turned a business back to the founder and said, we really like what you're doing. We want to stay engaged, but you have a lot more development needed. So that's a key thing for us, to make sure that the development is where it should be. We've had a few founders who've come in and said, we want to continue to go it alone. We've tried to adjust our business model and pivot to that. In some cases, they're so close to the market that it really doesn't make sense for them to give up much more equity than they've given up. And what we can do for them is probably not as great if they're that close to the market. So I think one of the interesting things is it has been a tough fundraising environment outside of our fund. We have a $30 million fund. 25 of it is funded. We expect to get the next $5 million in the next 6 months. But when you look out in the marketplace and see what's going on, especially for early stage companies, it's a very difficult environment today. And of course, this is cyclical. These things go in waves. So the things that we're working out, we continue to work on our process development and improvement. And I think one of the cool things is, again, along with attracting talent, we're attracting advisors who want to be part of what we're doing. We recently brought on a gentleman who's been in industry for over 40 years, not just in healthcare, but other industries. And he's bringing his talent to help us as we assess businesses that we're looking at, as well as help us work through some of the technical development issues that we have in the businesses that are under our management. So with that is my presentation. What questions can I answer?
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Do we have questions out there? May want to stop sharing your screen where you can see everybody and
Yep.
see. There we all are. I have just kind of a basic general question, I guess. Help me understand. So if you have a founder that brings the technology to you, brings a business to you,
Yes.
what role do they play? So they're not going to be the CEO then anymore. And is that kind of part of the deal, is they have to be okay with that and they have some other role to play, or are they just out? Like, what happens?
They will not, they most likely will not be the CEO. We had a 23-year-old kid bring a product to us. It's a very cool product. It's in a really new and rapidly growing area where there's a real problem. And he's kind of positioned as an industry expert, but yet, of course, he's never run a business. And he's done a lot on his own. So we've assigned an XIR to him, and she's been involved in 8 startups herself. She's in Lean Startup. So she's really managing the project, but using his knowledge to help us. We have another product where the founder started off, she's in academia. She was actually in industry originally, and she does not want to be the CEO. She wants to stay in academia, and she wants somebody to lead this project. So that's what we do. So one of our considerations as we go through our stage 0 process, we have 18 different elements that we look at. One of those is, what's the fit? Is that the model that they want or not? And if it is, then we're a good fit.
Jason, you've got a question. Do you want to unmute and go ahead and ask it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my question was related to attracting clients to your program. How do you get word out about your program? Is it more word of mouth, and also, do you just target those in the Midwest, or you take clients from anywhere? Talk us through how you attract those clients to your organization.
So Audrey Beckman is our Chief Innovation Officer, and it's her. So she works on deal flow. She goes out and she's actually she got her degree, both graduate and undergraduate degrees at Notre Dame. And so her job is really to go out and contact the academic institutions, as well as the healthcare institutions, corporations. And of course, we have a website where people are drawn to that. And then as part of our networking, as we go out, I was in Chicago, I don't know, maybe a month ago, went up to 1876 and Matter and Tech Nexus and a couple of places like that. And so we are also out networking. So that was actually how Sandra and I got to know each other, is through my work at Western. Satish told me, hey, you need to contact with our people. And so that's what I did. And so, so we're always looking to network with people that can feed into us. But Audrey then is the person who becomes the point person for that.
So you must probably interact then a lot. A lot of your focus is maybe then more like on tech transfer offices.
Yes.
Rather than finding the founders, because a lot of those founders want to actually lead it themselves. You're maybe going even a little bit further backwards.
Yeah, and so no, that's exactly right. So Purdue, Indiana, South Bend, Notre Dame, these places. This is what we've been doing, is working with tech transfer. And I've been in contact with folks at Western. We certainly are, but Ohio State, University of Kentucky, Louisville. Those are just a handful of the places that Audrey, I know, has been in touch with.
Do you find, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase the question. So let's say like companies are going through like SBIR, STTR. Do you like them coming out of that, or do you like to kind of get involved before they do that? Because I'm thinking like academic, you know, I've got several situations where we've got people, they're licensing the technology through the tech transfer office, but it's the academic person. And
Yeah.
they're licensing it so that they can do an SBIR, STTR. And we sit there and kind of go, but you're not the guy to lead this thing.
Yeah.
But they really want to do the SBIR, STTR. So where do you like to come in, before that or after that?
Well,
Or
that's a really great question. So I would say if you're like an SBIR phase 1, you're probably doing research. You're probably too early for us. If
Okay.
you're looking at a SBIR phase 2, where now we're thinking really more about commercializing, that's probably where you are. We actually been working with a group out of Raleigh, North Carolina, Eva Garland Consulting, who they just, for one of the projects that I worked on, just came up with this awesome, grant non-dilutive funding strategy, right? So we do like to see how much non-dilutive funding we can get early on. It makes nothing but sense. So we're, if that answers your question, yeah, we like non-dilutive funding. We want to make sure that it's in our wheelhouse, where we're not taking something that's still in research. We're taking something that's probably out of research.
Got it. Right. Carmen, do I throw it to you now, or do I throw it back to Cheryl?
We're on to Carmen.
Okay.
And I'm going to jump because I've got a hard stop at 3. Is that all right?
Thank you
And
so
I really
much.
thank you guys so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. And,
Thank you, Dick.
And Sandra knows how to get a hold of me if you have any other questions.
I
All
do.
right.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you very
so
much.
much.
All right.
Bye, Dick.
See you soon.
Okay.
Well, what a wonderful program yet again by the MBIA. We're really grateful. We are attracting ecosystem partners from Michigan and from outside of Michigan. I want to take a couple of minutes to be able to share the membership value to our audience here who might not already be members. For those of you who are members, this is a little bit of a refresher as well, to tell you what you really get out of being a member in the association. And I'll drop the link to the membership page on our website here in a second. But I really want to underscore the things that we pretty much already know, the people who are on the call, the ability to network at the local and state level, and as even outside the state, as you see right now. We provide advocacy here in Michigan. We provide training programs relevant to the Michigan entrepreneurial support organizations, to incubators, accelerators, co-working programs, and maker spaces. We have a membership directory of the members who are a part of our ecosystem here, and we provide direct contact to all those members. We certainly encourage everybody to join these virtual member meetings and in person if we ever get back to there sometime soon. We hope for it. We also have a clearinghouse of information on our website that is for members only. So information that you can access at any time. We'll give you a login and you can find that information and use it to support your programs. And then we also have our annual meeting where we get together in person. And those meetings are certainly for our members. And then of course, non-members, we encourage them to come and get involved with the ecosystem. We want to just make sure that we highlight those things, encourage everybody to join if they haven't done so yet. And if you have any questions at all, I encourage you to reach out to myself or any one of the other board members who are on the call today, or who might be part of our board. I'm just dropping in the chat the membership options. And with that, if anybody has any questions, I'll save space for that, but I don't think so at this point. It's my pleasure to tell everybody thank you for joining us here today, whether you were live or whether you're listening to this sometime in the future. We encourage you to reach out and ask us any questions or become involved in our network. And with that, I just wish everybody a great afternoon, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks, everybody.